Hyundai isn't messing around with the Ioniq. Forget about one model, it's launching with 3. There's a series hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, but the big news is the pure electric car you see right here. It's got more than 200 kilometers of range in the real world, and it costs less than $45,000. All of that begs the question, is it any good?
Power in the electric Ioniq comes from a motor making 88 kilowatts and 295 newton meters, hooked up to a 28 kilowatt hour battery. It's good for 280 k's on the NEDC or around 230 kilometers in the real world. Based on our experience, you can trust that figure. Charging takes 23 minutes on a 100 kilowatt DC fast charger, around 4.5 hours with a fast home connector, and about 12 with a regular wall plug. It's the most expensive car in the range, but Hyundai is expecting the electric to account for 50% of sales. Thank government fleets for that one. Apparently, the designer in the Ioniq was inspired by a killer whale when he penned the car, and I can absolutely... Who are we kidding? It doesn't look like a whale. It's got a similar shape to the other hybrid cars we've seen though. Blame the dark art of aerodynamics for that one. Aero is also why this grille is covered over, and why the wheels look like this. It's not as weird as some of the other hybrid and electric vehicles we've seen before, but there's no question it's still an eco car. Crack open the boot and there's 350 litres of space. The series hybrid gets more, 100 litres more, but the battery eats into the space where all your stuff and the spare wheel would usually go. It's still usable, so stop whining. It's a mixed bag in the back seat. Legroom is pretty good, even if you're tall, but the sloping roofline eats into headroom. My head touches the roof and my neck was actually a bit bent sitting back there, so kids and shorter adults will be fine, but tall teens might complain. They'll be happy to know there are air vents though. That's a nice touch.
Hyundai hasn't deviated too far from its regular formula in here. This 8-inch screen looks just like the one in the i30, but there are unique displays for the hybrid and the electric. The screen in front of the driver is completely unique to the Ioniq though. Shows you how much charge you're using, how much battery you have left, and how aggressive the brake regeneration is. Speaking of brake regen, you can actually control how aggressive it is using the paddles behind the steering wheel, which is really cool. Because there's no big, bulky gearbox to house, there is a ton of space in the center console. You've got a massive bin under the dashboard, cup holders, bottle pockets, enough space to keep even the messiest drivers happy. This is going to sound like I'm damning the Ioniq with faint praise. That is not the intention here, but it is the least electric car I've ever driven. Bear with me on that one. As you can hear, it's super smooth and dead silent in here. I could whisper and there wouldn't really be a problem. But it doesn't feel like a science experiment in the way some other electric cars do. For one, the regenerative braking kicks in really smoothly and it won't throw you forward in the seat. There's also no massive shove in the back in any speed like you get in, say, a Tesla. Not saying it's slow, and in sport mode it's actually pretty quick, but there's not that same period of adjustment you need to get used to how the electric car delivers its power and a petrol car delivers its power. Hyundai's done some really cool stuff with the regenerative braking on this car. At the moment, I'm in the least aggressive regen mode, so if I lift off the throttle, the car just coasts like a normal petrol car or diesel car in neutral. If I pull this left-hand paddle though, I've got 1, 2, and then 3 sort of different levels of regen. It's almost like downshifting up to a set of lights in a petrol car. And what that means is people control how aggressive or how gentle the regen is, and they can choose how much like a petrol or an electric car this feels. It also means you can play with your gears or your regen while you're going down hills or over bridges and maintain your speed while getting maximum energy back into the battery. Hyundai's done that for a reason. This car isn't meant to feel weird. It's not meant to be strange. It's not meant to be new. It's meant to be the first taste a lot of people get of electric power, and, well, it feels really normal in here. There's no adjustment period. It's bang on.
The feeling of the Ioniq being a normal car carries over to the ride and handling. With no internal combustion engine grumbling away up front, it's very quiet inside, even at highway speeds. You don't even get much wind or road noise. Well done, Hyundai. Not that most buyers are likely to care, it even handles nicely on a twisty stretch of road.
This will be the first electric car a lot of people drive. It doesn't look like a science experiment, and it doesn't feel like a science experiment, which is exactly what it needs to be. Hyundai has absolutely nailed the mark with the price and the way the Ioniq feels. For more on the car, make sure you head to caradvice.com for a full review and pricing and specs.